Baltic Sea is bordered by 8,000 kilometers of coastline across 9 different countries, 8 member states as well as Russia. Each country has its own economic and political priorities. Almost 100 million people live around the Baltic Sea. However, as well as being a good performer on many topics, it is also faced with environmental problems, shortcomings in transport links and wide disparities in economic development. In view of this situation, the European Council called upon the European Commission to develop a long-term strategy to support the region's future development. The European Commission has therefore drawn up the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. This strategy is based around 4 main issues: safeguarding the environment, developing the region's economy, making the region more attractive and accessible, and finally, improving safety and security. The Baltic Sea and its coastline are subject to important environmental pressures. Urban wastewater, intensive farming techniques, increased enterprise activities are all sources of increased pollution. Moreover, as the sea is a common resource, the different partners find it difficult to cooperate to clean it up.
Planning on the sea requires international agreement because the sea and the influences which our actions in the sea start really have no boundaries. They don't observe national borders.
Pollutants, especially nitrates and phosphates, increase the eutrophication of the water, causing an increase in the growth of certain algae, creating green tides along the coastline. The EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region includes numerous projects which aim to reduce the impact of these diverse environmental factors. Despite the existence of the single market and the free movement of goods and services within the European Union, there are hindrances to cross-border operations in the Baltic Sea. Many commercial transactions are still complicated by differing national practices. It is high time that a new approach was taken to these trading practices.
We think that innovation is not so dependent on bricks and buildings, it's dependent on bringing the right people together.
The EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region proposes various ways of facilitating trade between the different countries, and in particular offers greater opportunities to SMEs, for example by creating business networks.
And if I were to give a wish for the coming 5 years, I would wish that we'd be much more successful in establishing the context between the people with the money and the people with the ideas.
There will also, for instance, be greater focus on improving student mobility within the region and developing young entrepreneur exchange programs. Due to the large size of the region and the long distances, parts of the Baltic Sea region are difficult to access from the rest of the European Union and from other parts of the region itself. This creates a problem for goods and for people. As far as the transportation of goods is concerned, the main ports are reaching maximum capacity. The road network is too often inadequate in some parts of the region, and there are gaps in the rail infrastructure. On the other hand, enterprises have been innovative in these fields and are keen to invest in more efficient and sustainable forms of transport.
Shorter time, that's money, but we are focusing very much on the environment. So if we can get a transportation system where we can load a train going to the harbor, go by boat and then load it to train again and then to the final customer, that would suit us perfectly.
For example, one of the priorities of the European strategy is to complete the Rail and Via Baltica projects, which will link Finland, the Baltic states and Poland to each other and to the rest of the European Union. Maritime traffic on the Baltic Sea continues to grow. Huge tankers mingle with ferries and cruise ships. The number and diversity of vessels on a sea which is subject to the harsh weather poses considerable safety risks.
Suomessa vapaaehtoinen meripelastusjärjestelmä toimii hyvin. Nyt me haluamme viedä sitä samaa tietotaitoa Viron puolelle, jotta Viron kansalaisilla, virolaisilla ja suomalaisilla olisi turvallisempi liekkua myös Viron rannikolla. Eli tavoitteena on yhdenmukaistaa turvallisuuden tasoa sekä Viron että Suomen rannikoilla.
The European strategy will encourage collaboration between the different maritime safety agencies. Logistical and material cooperation and training will also be organised. The European Commission, the European Parliament, the Member States and all the partners within the region are exploring new ways of cooperating. The EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region provides a new approach to solving the problems of a macro region. It is also an important first step towards the regional implementation of the EU integrated maritime policy. It provides a framework for policymakers to cooperate and work together to achieve common goals.